welcome back to the interviews and the chats of the European Livestock Voice in collaboration with the EAAP, the the European Federation of Animal Sciences. Today we are going to Turin, where we meet Professor Laura Gasco. Hi, Professor, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. What about you?
Well, fine, thanks.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. We're very glad to have you and to speak about something new. But first of all, I'd like you to introduce yourself. You're a full professor of the University of Turin, and what else?
So, hello. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, Andrea. Yes, I'm working at the University of Torino, and I'm a full professor there, and in particular at the Department of Agricultural, Forest and Food Science. And I have a background of agricultural engineering, so I graduated in Belgium, and then I moved to Italy, and I moved to Italy to work with animals, so I'm working with animal growing and nutrition. And in this context, in 2011, I approached the use of insects as feed, mainly for fish and poultry, and since about 10 years now, I also investigate the insect as animals. So that means how can we grow insects? How can we impact the life cycles of insects? How can we use organic substrate in the bioconversion process? How can we impact the product quality of insects? And everything, of course, is oriented for the use of insects-derived products in animal feed. I'm currently the president of the Insect Commission within the European Federation of Animal Science.
Okay, so that's the main connection you have with the EAAP. So I even didn't know I didn't remember there was a study commission on insects. So that's very interesting. What I was saying is that it's something relatively new on this YouTube channel, at least. So please tell us something more about. I mean, you're a specialist in the use of insects as a livestock feed. So if you can tell us something more about it, because I wonder, for instance, what characteristics make them a suitable animal feed ingredient.
Using insect as animal feed, and in particular for fish, poultry. When I say fish, it's aquaculture in general, so you can also include shrimps, and you can also use them for pets. It's gaining more and more attention at global level, mainly due to their nutritional value, the environmental benefits, and the economical potential that insect can have. The more commonly insect species that are used in animal feed are black soldier fly, yellow mealworms, and houseflies. At European level, there are also other insect species that have been authorized to be used as processed animal protein, but I would say that Musca domestica, Hermetia illucens, and Tenebrio monitor are the three that are most promising. Why insects? There are many reasons to use insect in animal feed. I would go that the first one, and that is the one that retained first the attention, is the high nutritional value. Insects are rich in protein, and this was the first focus. You know that Europe is looking for new protein sources produced at the European level, and insect can be one of those protein sources. They are rich in essential amino acid, which is so very important when you are working with animal. In some case, the nutritional value in terms of protein and amino acid is comparable to traditional sources, and in particular soybean meal. They have, of course, a good fat content that can serve as a source of energy for animals, but not only, because insect also contain some valuable fatty acid that can have beneficial effects on livestock. They contain mineral, vitamins, so they are definitely good from a nutritional point of view. If you think about fish and poultry in particular, they are a natural source of nutrients. In the
they
wild,
already eat insects. I mean,
exactly. In the wild, poultry are eating insects, fish are eating insects. So it's something that it's adapted to their needs, to their behavior. Think about the welfare aspect of using live insect larvae in poultry nutrition. This enables poultry to express their natural behavior or foraging behavior, and this has some definitely benefits from a welfare and a behavior point of view. Well, another reason is that insects, at least some insect species, such as, for example, the black soldier fly, are powerful bioconverters of organic substrate. That means that you can use waste, you can use any kind, potentially any kind of organic substrate, and bioconvert them into very valuable nutrients, protein, lipids. So you go from a very low value substrate that can be, you know, a problem also from an environmental point of view or from an economic point of view if you have to dispose them to the landfill. And you convert them through insects to a nutrient and some valuable nutrients.
And this is connecting, I guess, what you were saying, so the nutritional part with the environmental one. So yes,
definitely,
the advantages.
Yeah. And well, and from an environmental point of view or from a sustainable point of view, there are also some reasons to use insects. Well, they have, they can be grown vertically. So that you can grow them using the verticality of the space. That means that you will have a low impact on the land that you will use to rear insects. So if you compare conventional protein sources, such for example soybean meal, you need to have an horizontal land to grow this kind of plants. While for insects, you can use the verticality because you can grow them in containers that are put one up to the other. Well,
so you need less space, basically.
Less space, definitely less space. So they also have low greenhouse gas emission. And this usually is when you compare them to livestock. So they often you can find in the web some comparison between the high impact in terms of greenhouse gas emission of livestock and the low one of insects. But my aim, my objective is not to substitute livestock, not at all, but is to use more sustainable source of nutrients that can be obtained locally using maybe less land, using less input, and to give them to traditional livestock.
But what about, so, okay, let's speak about this already, because I wanted to leave it as a last provocative question, so about the insects as animal food, but I ask you now, as you mentioned it, because, well, I'm absolutely willing to taste it, but it's surely not part of my taste, of my culture. I mean, I guess in Europe, a few species are permitted now in food for human consumption, but I'm the first one, honestly, who will always prefer a steak or fish than insects. I mean, we need to take into account that it's food is also a lot about culture, no? About it's not only about sustainability, environment, and so on. So if you ask me, I'm speaking for myself now. Again, I'm absolutely glad to taste it, but I'm not going to substitute meat and fish. But what do you think now? How do you think that people will ever take them seriously? Let's say that was my provocation, at least in the West, again, because if we're speaking of Asia, Africa, other contexts, they're already present. So how do you see that in Europe? As a human?
Yeah, well, I think that I'm in the same position than you. You know, I am willing to taste them. I try them when I have insects. When I'm traveling, I eat insects when I have to eat them. And then I think that insect can absolutely be a valid source of nutrients, of protein for humans, as they are already in many countries. You say Africa, you say Asia, which is that it's present in the market. However, in Europe, consumer acceptance, it's the main barriers. you know, the consumer perception in Europe, in Western countries, insects are often associated with fear, with disgust. They are not part of our traditional diet, definitely. Maybe they have been part of the traditional diet, but a long, long time ago, and then we forgot it. So it's difficult for Western people to eat insect, in particular when you propose them to eat them as in whole form. So like, you know, when you really see the insect, when you see the larvae, or when you see the crickets. Even if you explain to people that insects can have some definitely nice effects on environment, on health, on from a nutritional point of view, many of them are still reluctant, you know, to consume, because it's a cultural barriers, it's a kind of psychological barriers that we have. However, I think that the shift is possible. It will be gradual, very gradual, but I think it is possible. And in particular, among young, you can maybe impact them. Young people are maybe more prone to see the environmental effects, you know, and to be conscious consumers. Maybe a strategy could also be to incorporate insects and not, well, in a non-visible form. That means that I can use insect powder, energy bar, pasta, snacks, chips, etc. So I don't really see the insect. I know that the insect is inside because no one wants to hide anything. On the contrary, when people are selling products with insects, they want that the insect is clearly highlighted in the product. But for the consumer, it's definitely more acceptable. So I don't see the insects, I eat it, and often the product tastes nice. And if you don't know that the insect is inside, you may not even know it, you know. And I also think that one strategy could be going through a quite nice marketing campaign, maybe some to have the endorsement of some influencer or some chef. That helps to normalize the idea of using insects, you know, in the food.
Doesn't it make more sense to invest because all these influencer chefs are, I mean, if you pay them, they tell you what they want or what you want, sorry.
Yeah.
Does it make sense maybe to invest all this effort on making it a reliable, sustainably produced animal feed ingredient? I mean, rather, because I understand what you mean, and it's surely right about young people. You can take them to eat insects, even if I don't see. I mean, I still believe that to deal with culture of a nation of people takes much more than some influencers. Because I think, for instance, I'm from Lombardy. When I was saying in England to people that the best recipe of my grandma was rabbit, they were going crazy. It was unacceptable for them. Or when a Chinese is telling me that he's eating a dog, I mean,
it is not acceptable for us.
Yeah, it's something really. It takes long time. So does it make sense maybe to focus on the animal feed part? So the fact to replace or integrate better soybean production, these kind of things. I mean,
I think that there are two different channels. You know, there is the food and the feed. The legislation are different for food and feed. Food goes with the novel food legislation. Feed goes with another kind of legislation. Well, I think that, well, in my opinion, feed makes more sense. But you know, I'm biased because I'm working with animal production, and I also think that the biggest insect producers in Europe or at the global level are targeting animal feed, because it's the one that is easier to go, it's more acceptable, because as long as the ingredient, so the insect, is good, it's high level in protein, good profile in amino acid, is well balanced from a nutritional point of view, it can be used quite easily in the formulation of a diet for poultry, for pigs, for fish. So it's just a question of formulation.
Sorry, I guess also the quantities are different.
Yeah, the quantity are different, but in that case, from animal feed, we are still very, very far away from the quantities that are needed to be really included into the animal feed diets, because the quantities that are produced nowadays are still too low to be real included into animal diets. We are definitely far away from the 1 million tons that we need if we definitely want to have it as a regular base in a diet for animals. But it's a beginning.
And considering that if this is a beginning and the aim is to get these quantities, let's say, I ask you one last thing. What you think, if this mass production is reached, what are the problems, or what is about the real environmental impact? And we didn't speak about safety. I mean, when the insect production is reaching a certain level, how can we assure that the safety is always under control and the environmental impact?
Consider that in Europe we have some very strict regulation for feed production and for the ingredients that you can use in the animal feed. So they are regulated. You can have some maximum limits. You have some limits for several, biological or chemical hazard in the different ingredients and in the feed formulation. Clearly, insects, well, there are some safety considerations that has to be taken into account. Insect, in particular, if you are rearing insect on real waste, they could accumulate uptake from the substrate contaminants such as heavy metals, pesticide, and this can accumulate into the insects and then can be transferred into the insect to the feed chain. But consider that the insect feed is very strictly controlled. So analyses are performed to see the level of contaminants, and also nowadays in Europe at least, there you cannot use any kind of substrate to rear insects. So there are some limitations for that. But any kind of insect industry is concerned about that, and they are taking all the measures that are needed to assess not only the quality, but the safety of the product that they are delivering into the market, and they have to comply with a certain amount of input that are given by the European legislation. Yeah, you have to adhere to the good manufacturing practice. You have regular controls that are done.
No, because I have to think of that, because if you ask me, the first thought is about safety, because again, it's a great idea in terms of circular economy to feed these insects with organic waste, as you were saying. So it's, I mean, but what there is in this organic waste? So that's a bit the first question. And then the environmental impact and the safety, if there is a leak of insects. I mean, imagine that billion insects are raised in a container, and there is some damage, and some billion insects are escaping in the wrong ecosystem. I mean,
well, the wrong ecosystem, this is not possible, as you can't. Well, all the insects that are mass produced are already, present in the environment where you are growing them. You cannot introduce some new species. So this is the first point. Then insects need high temperatures. So in the unlikely, event of an escape of insects, as soon as the temperature decreases, they will not survive. But, thinking about Hermetia igucens, so the black soldier fly, which is, I think, the most promising for the feed sector, Hermetia is present everywhere. If you have a garden, and then you have the compost, and you are doing your own compost, I would say that 85 to 90% of chance that you already have Hermetia, because it really looks for this kind of substrate. From a safety point of view, also consider that in Europe you can feed insects only with what it is already authorized for the other animal species. It's a little bit of nonsense, because, well, why should I eat? What should I feed insect with something that I can already use to feed poultry or fish or something like that? Well, the sustainability of insects makes sense if you use non-otherwise better valorized substrate. And this is why the European Commission, together with the insect producer, the research, etc., are looking for finding new non-valorized substrate, but still taking into consideration the safety. Europe will never approve a substrate if it is not safe. And for that, I'm definitely sure. And you know, when you are outside Europe, there are other legislation that can apply, no legislation at all. But Europe asked to grow insect outside Europe in the same condition and with the same regulation. If you want to import, let's say you are in Asia and you are growing black soldier fly, if you want to send the insect meal that you produce in Asia, it has to comply with the European legislation. Otherwise, you will not be able to use it.
So like with the rest of the food, must be having our standards. Okay, so just one thing, because I had to ask you something provocative. Do you expect to have problems with animal rights activists also for insects? Or
Well,
they don't care about insects?
No, they care. I don't say that I'm afraid to have problems with them. Well, but clearly they are also looking at insects. You know, as soon as you start growing animals, whatever, if there are fish, poultry, or insects, well, this kind of association is looking at that. So there are some associations that are looking at the insect welfare, and yes, they argue in some case that it makes no sense to kill billions of insects to produce, you know, insect meal to feed animals. They are very, they take care about the welfare of insects, which is something.
How do you do that? Sorry, how do you?
There is nothing for the moment, not because, you know, insects, I've never been considered from this point of view. So we used to grow insects for biocontrol, for pest management and stuff like that, but not for the production of ingredients for food and feed. So no one took care about the insect welfare. But now that we are growing them, now that they are farmed animals, of course, we also have to take care about welfare. But the welfare legislation is not in force for the moment. Also because I think it will take time to define the densities for the insect rearing, the optimal temperature, how to kill them in a proper way. And you know, insects, we put insects in the same basket, okay? But insects are completely different. Think about a fly. Fly will not have the same welfare requirements than crickets. So it's for each species, and I would say for each stage within the same species, we will have to define some welfare criteria. And well, the research is what research is doing, and also the industry is really concerned about this topic. And industry is working a lot on insect welfare.
Well, good luck with that. It sounds quite some work to do here.
Yeah, there is a lot of, you know, but we would, with insect, we would love to have all the nutritional requirements, the welfare, everything set in few years, while it took decades to set all those things for the other animals. So we have to be patient, and we have to work a lot.
Well, so for the time being, thanks. I wish you all the best with your activity, and thank you for your time. It was really interesting because, again, it's something that we don't cover so often. So I hope, and I guess there will be the chance to speak again soon about this novel food or novel feed ingredient, let's say. So for the time being, Professor Laura Gasco, thank you again. And I hope we can keep in touch, and please keep us updated about your studies, your research, because again, it's pretty interesting from many perspectives.
Thank you very much for this very nice opportunity. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.